All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSims DFS office hours. Today is Tuesday, November 4th of 2025. Looking ahead here, we have some NBA and NHL action on this Tuesday. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS-related questions, get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do the show on Saturdays, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days, get your questions answered. All right. Happy to be back. Was out yesterday. Was out at the Dodgers parade yesterday. Was super, super fun. Had a good time. With regard to the schedule for this week, we will only be having office hours today and tomorrow. So Wednesday will be my last office hours for the week here. And I'm going to be taking a couple days off here. So just want to let you guys know about that. In the meantime, though, we do have plenty of questions to get to today. So got the first one up on the screen. First question. I've been getting way too many lineups with no run backs. Without totally disabling that setting in stack exposure, what is the best way to limit it? I rebuilt my lineups, setting the max exposure to 10% on that stack, but the pool was still exposed to 30% or so. Any suggestions to limit the pool versus lineups, or what is the best way to ensure your pool does not overbuild these type of lineups? Sorry for the long type out. It looks like playing with exposures does better after building your pool rather than setting a limit before building your pool. Is that correct? All right. So kind of a question around like NFL and like NFL stacks. So why don't we just go back to Sunday and we'll go to the main slate. Okay. So off the top of my head, I think the number one thing you should experiment with here is that if you are getting lineups that do not have stacks in them, okay, what I would do, or I'm sorry, not stacks, but we're talking about run backs, right? Bring backs. That is like any stack that has this dash and then a player on the other side, right? So like what this lineup means here, right, is a QB +1, so quarterback with a position player on the quarterback's team, and then one player on the opposing team, right? Like the user is saying they want to see more of these stacks in their lineups. The best way to do that, in my opinion, would be to start with increasing correlation, because usually these players are positively correlated. If I go to a receiver, right, and I go and look at Jamar Chase, well, his top correlation is to Joe Flacco, of course, right? His quarterback. His secondary positive correlations, are all Chicago players. DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Olamide Zaccheaus, Rome Odunze, right? Colston Loveland. Like we see, well, one, the quarterback, but you can't play, two quarterbacks in the same lineup. But then we see all pass catchers after that. Now, mind you, these values are rather small, right? 0.05, 0.04, 0.04. So my thinking here, right, is that the correlation slider at its default value is basically not strong enough to push these bringbacks often as much as, whatever enough is to you. So the best way to do that would be to amplify that correlation and figure out at what level above the default do you start to see the stacks that you want. So what I would probably do, right, is I would just run like test builds. I would change it. So the default's 6, right? I would change it to 7. I would run a build. I would change it to 8. I would run a build. I would do this all the way up to 10. And then I would figure out, well, what number between 7 and 10 am I starting to see more of these bringbacks that I want, right? So that's where I would start with this problem. Is I would absolutely start there. It is the one way to avoid hard and fast rules, such as like setting, specific rules for like 100% of bringbacks or anything like that. So I think that's the best option as of now. So give that a shot. Let me know how it goes. All right, next question. I noticed in templates, when you do one lineup per contest, if you edit that option, you can see it says contest type is cash. I saw there are other options like GPP and Satellites. Does selecting these options change anything? Okay, so we're talking about the one group per contest template. So when you click the eye icon, right, you can view the template. Now, these templates you can have multiple layers within a template. Okay. So what SaberSim is saying here, and I can close this, right? And I can see all the different rules. Basically, what the one group per contest template does is if you have any cash games, it puts all of your cash games in a single group, and then it grades them by projected score by default. So it's going to take all your cash, put them in one group, use projected score. Then what it's going to do, it's going to take all of your other contests and then put them in their own individual groups. That's why this one says each. And then it's going to rank them by portfolio. So this is the most likely way we think users would be using, wanting to take an entry file that has both cash and GPP contests, and how we would recommend you would use the groups. So if you don't have cash contests, it's fine. It's going to ignore it. But if you do, just understand that this is the default behavior of what it's going to do. If you want to do something different, right, you can always create your own template. And then remember, when you click this add another group, it is adding layers to your template. So it's like, okay, in my top level, maybe this one has to do with cash games, right? I'm going to write some logic for cash games, and then I'm going to save it. And then in layer 2, well, this one, I'm going to do some logic for satellites, right? So the way this works is once a contest is, think of it as like being captured. Once a contest is captured in one of these subsets, it is no longer considered for future subsets. So here, right, we had one for cash. Say I put in one for satellites. And then, say I do one last one for GPPs, right? And maybe I want to group all my caches together. I want to group all my satellites. And then I want to do a contest, a group for each contest that's a GPP, right? I don't have to tell the builder to do GPP because that's all that's left at that point. The caches are gone, the satellites are gone. So this just allows you to add multiple layers, and our default behavior is capture cache together and with projected score, do one group per each remaining contest. So that's why you are seeing that in that template. All right. Next question. I think that the answer to this is no. But would a rule like this even be possible? For a 2-4 showdown lineup, if Marvin Harrison is captain, then the other Cardinal cannot be Jacoby Brissett. I wouldn't want a situation where Harrison could never be with Brissett. But if for whatever reason I thought that combo could never win in a 2-4 lineup, would it be possible to set that up as a rule? Just for example purposes, this isn't a rule I want to make. Okay. I don't think you can do this. And we'll go to a showdown just to check, though. So we'll go to Arizona, Dallas. This is where this example came from. All right. So, yeah, I'm like pretty sure you can't do this. Because maybe you could. No, yeah, it wouldn't work. You would basically need like two ifs. You would need like it's called like a nested if. And when you like use Excel, it's called like a nested function. It's like a function within a function where you would need like, okay, if exactly 2 from this team, then don't, well, maybe not a nested if, but you would need a higher level of logic than is available, I think, within the rules. Because it would have to be like if exactly 2 cannot be these 2, right? So like I think there's something missing here that would allow you to do that. Because you don't want to say use no more than 1. Because if you wrote a rule that was like use no more than 1 and you put those 2 players in here, well, then you would never get them, right? You need to say like use no more than 1 if exactly 2 or something like that, right? So I don't think you can do it, unfortunately. The only way to do it to get this like the way you want would basically be like, say I have 20 lineups. Maybe I designate 5 lineups to like Cardinals 2-4 stacks. I write a so I build my 5 lineups, and then afterwards I combine those 5 lineups with my other 15 lineups, and I would use the favorites to do that, right? It's like basically this is what I would probably do. In my build, I would X out Cardinals 2-4s. Like, hey, I don't want to play any Cardinal 2-4s. And then in this build, I'm going to have a group, and I'm probably going to build 15 lineups, right? So I know I'm not going to get any Cardinal 4-2s here. Then what I would do is I would do a second build, and then I would have another group. And let's say I need 5 lineups, right, to complete my 20. Well, this time I would do 100% Arizona 2-4s. And then I would say use no more than 1. And then I would put Harrison, Brissett, flex, and captains into this rule. So then now I have 25% 2-4s, but I don't have the combination I don't want. So I think this is about as close as you can get to making that happen. That one was kind of hard, but it seems like it is possible. So that's cool. All right, next question. How is SaberScore calculated on the starter plan? Good question. So just as a quick resource, we do have a video on this. Go to the top right, go to help, SaberSim tutorials, how SaberScore works. So I'm just going to drop this here in the chat, and then this one came in Discord, so I will send it there as well. We are going to talk about it, but these resources are good, and I do like to share them so people know they exist. So the way this works is after we build your lineups, okay, we run what we call a simple contest sim. It is a contest sim on our back end that we made that captures general payout structures in a specific contest. So like we basically created a hypothetical contest behind the scenes. We call it a simple contest sim because it's not any specific contest's payout structure. It's not any specific contest's size, but it is a contest sim. So I don't know exactly what the details of the sim are, but like for instance, the contest is 20% to first and has a 25% cash rate, right? Simple blanket sim. The reason we did this was because it grades out better than old SaberScore, right? So like if you go, it's like the sorting metrics, right? There's like SaberScore and there's old SaberScore. This simplified contest sim grades out better than old SaberScore does. So when you see SaberScore, it is effectively just the ROIs from the simple contest sim. It's not shown as a percentage, it's shown as a whole number, but that is what it is. So we're running that sim, and then we are using that to solve your portfolio. All right, next question. Back after 2 years, welcome. App is totally different. It definitely has had some changes. Can you walk through the late swap process? Couldn't figure out how to last night. The build swaps button was red and an error message about assigning lineups to contests. Bad start to my trial. Okay, so the biggest thing here is with the new late swap, and I'm just going to use our late swap tutorial here because, you know, we're not like in the middle of a slate. So using late swap. All right. So the biggest thing with swapping right now is that when you go to swap, right? So we're in a swap build. Okay, right here. I'm going to pause this. You have to have groups in order to swap. If you do not have groups, your build swaps button is going to be red. And then it's going to tell you the message that you saw where it's basically saying, hey, there are no contests assigned, right? So what you need to do to resolve this problem, go to the lineups page, go to templates, and select one, okay? We recommend generally using the one group per contest one. That one will work fine. More importantly is I would recommend starring one of your templates here because it should auto-create it even in late swap. So that way you never run into the issue where your button is red. So if those groups are auto-creating, you shouldn't have that problem. If it does, if it doesn't, if you do have the problem, just come in here and select one, right? You want to come in here and select the template that will create the groups with your contests, and then you will be able to swap. So that's the big thing here. But I would check out our new tutorial. I know you said you haven't been here in a couple years. We've revamped these. Shout out to Mark from our support team. These used to be just a video. You know, that's all it used to be. But now there's table of contents, written articles, screenshots, you know, step-by-steps, as well as a comprehensive video as well. So whatever, you know, some people like to read, some people like to look at pictures, some people like to watch videos, right? There's different ways to consume this. And we've tried to explore that and make it, you know, friendly for everybody. So I would definitely walk through this and try and follow along for sure. But that's why you're seeing that. All right. Next question. Can you help explain to me the different fill methods between Portfolio Plus and just using uniques? Yeah, for sure. So the big thing here, right, is with Portfolio. Let's say you're using contest sims, right? So we're using ROI. The portfolio solver is not just giving you the highest ROI to lowest. That's what uniques does, actually. Uniques, when you use uniques, it's going to give you the first highest ROI, and then the second, and then the third, and then the fourth, right? What portfolio does is it uses ROI as like its main metric, right? That's the metric it's going off of. But what it does different, and it does this in a very smart way, it looks at your lineups, and it looks at the ROIs, and then it figures out which two lineups complement each other the best when played together, where it tries in guards against heavy swings, and then these lineups aren't fighting each other for first place equity, right? So you want to find lineups that kind of complement each other rather than have like the same path to victory in a way. And that's what portfolio does. Like what you're going to see with portfolio is you might see the first highest ROI, and then you might see the fifth highest ROI, second, where it skipped 2, 3, 4. And the reason it did that is because the builder decided, hey, the fifth lineup actually complements the first one better. So we should play these two together, and then maybe we play lineup 2 after it. But we shouldn't play 1 and 2. We should play 1 and 5 and then 2. That is what portfolio is trying to do. It's trying to look at all of your lineups together, see how they fit, and what characteristics they have that either make them play better or worse together, and then figure out which ones fit. All right, next question. Can you show me how to create rules for my NHL lineups? I want one full line plus D and another full line, ideally first line with a D, and the other line can be 1 through 3, but full regular line pairings on all. All right, I'm not an NHL expert, but we can talk about this a little bit. Really quickly, I see this other one. Having problems with the Sims not loading. What I would do is if you guys are having problems, do one of two things. One is you can write into our team via this question mark up here. We get back to people like very, very fast, 15 minutes. And or you can go to the top right and you can go to report a problem and you can let us know what's going on here. If you're having an issue, if you're having like a problem, like this is like a problem, right? I would use report a problem. If you have a question and more along the lines of like nothing specifically wrong, maybe I don't know what something means, right? What does leverage mean or something like that? That's when I would use the question mark. So use the report a problem button. Our team is around, and my troubleshooting capabilities are like a little limited on the show. So that would be a much better resource. And then someone would get back to you. All right, let's get back to this NHL one. So the big things with NHL that I would recommend being aware of. And we're going over DK main today. So when you say full line pairings, right? Full line pairings. Obviously, the user is saying they want skaters on the same line, right? So when you go to your rules, okay, I would go to my stacks, and then you can control this here, right? What the big thing I want to point out, and I'm going to move my face over so it's out of the way. Use this must be on the same box. Okay, check this. Now what you can say is like, okay, hey, you said I want first line with a D, and then I think you said ideally 1. Yeah, ideally first line. Okay, so then what you do here, right, is I don't know if you meant EV or power play, but then what I could do is like I can do 2 rules, right? So my first rule is must be on the same. I can do even strength or power play line. I leave only line 1 available for both of those. And then I check the D, right? Because I want the D as part of this. So I'm saying, hey, use at least 3. These are the positions you can use. Must be on the same even strength or power play line, and use 1. So then I'm just going to call this one line 1. Now I'm going to do another stack. And I'm just going to call this second stack, where I'm going to do the same thing. But this time, I'm going to leave this open more. And maybe I still do power play 1, but maybe I do even strength 1 through 3 or power play 1, right? You can get more specific. I can have a rule for power play. I can have a rule for even strength, right? You have options here. So it would probably be something like this. And because these are 2 different rules, the builder would have to meet my second stack rule could be EV2. My second stack rule could be EV3, right? So it just depends how specific you want to get with it. But I think getting to this point and then customizing it is where you want to be at. So I would use this and then try and dial this in further as needed. All right. Taking a look here. Think we are all caught up with questions. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next show. So until then, everybody take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.